So the next one we will be discussing about redirections. Okay, redirections. What all redirections? So you have to practice the first one, creating files and then working with that, and then the next one is called redirections. We have a couple of redirections in uh, Unix based systems. Okay, there is an output, and then there is an input. Okay, what redirections are we will discuss. There is an output and then there is an input. Okay, first one is redirecting the standard output. Redirecting the standard output. I think somebody has joined. Wait a minute. Redirecting the standard output. So what is called input and what is called output? What is called input? What kinds of inputs do you see? You know, we're talking about absolute basics. What is called input and then what is called output? I'm asking you. Okay, input is something that we give to the application or to the system or whatever. The data that we give. We give means it's not necessarily human. Even the systems can give input. Okay, that means the application is fed with some data, some instructions or some data. Okay, for example, with a mouse, you are moving your cursor and click on something, it is nothing but an input. What's an output? Output is something that you get. You get something which we call it as an output. Actually, you get something. It could be, if there is a printer, then you print something, you get it through the printer. It could be an output. You save to some file, it could be an output. You open a terminal and you got something, that is an output where you can see. Okay, there is an input and output. For example, you open something like Prime Videos or Netflix. Okay, the input what you give to Prime Video or Netflix is you go and then search for some movie and then click on a movie to play or a show to play, which is called input. What is an output? Based on your input, it starts streaming the movie. We call it as an output. So input and output are very, very important for any application. Unless there is an input, there may not be any output. Not all applications. Okay, generally input is required to get a proper output. For example, you want to count two numbers, you want to get the addition of two numbers. The input should be two numbers. The output would be the addition of sum of two numbers, right? So redirections in Linux, Unix based systems are based on inputs and outputs. Okay, the first one is redirecting the standard output. You can redirect it to a generally to a file or a device. Let's say that I say ls. You know what is the command called ls? Ls is going to list down all the files. Okay, there is only one file. Ls is trying to list down all the files. I would like to, so this is the input to the terminal and this got to be the output. This is the output. This is the output of this command. I want to redirect this output. Okay, I want to redirect to the output to a file. Okay, let me go here. Let me go here. There are certain things. Okay, I would like to type ls root. Okay, I am inside my home directory and then I put ls root. This is the output. This is what it's going to print because all the list of files. I would like to take this output to a file. This is called redirection. The output, the output is sent to a file. This is very, very important even for your shell scripting and DevOps related things. Many times you would have to use these kind of things in your DevOps. The output is written to a file. Usually the output is shown in the terminal. Rather, you would like to send the output to a file. Particularly logs and all we do a lot. What it does, it creates a file and then it put all the output to this file. You see this list of root, it creates a file because this is the input, this is the command. I am saving this output of the command to a file. I save this output of the command. I redirect, actually I shouldn't use the word called save. I redirect the output of the file to a command, to a file. This is the input and then this is the output. You can also append the redirect. You can also append that for example, echo the above is the list of all files in my root directory. You know, when you type this, it just prints echo, it just echoes. I would like to take this input and this output, this is the output, and append to the file. Append to the file list of root.txt. The two arrow stalks append to the file. This is what the appending to the standard output, appending the standard output. This is the standard output. Appending the standard output. Cat, you see that the above is the list of all the files in the root directory. Appending to the standard output. So two arrows talks about the appending the standard output. There are two things actually. One is called standard output and the other one is called standard error. Okay. Standard output and then standard error. If any command gives an output, we call it as standard output. Any command that gives an output, for example, cat abcd.txt. Okay, what would be the output? This is not the actual standard output. This is the standard error. Because there is no file called abcd.txt. Okay. So the standard error is also displayed as a standard output. Actually, if you see this, okay, what if you see the difference? Echo so what is the difference between this and this? The first one is the actual standard error because there is no file called abcd.txt. The second one is not the standard error, it's the standard output. The reason is I purposely copy this text and then save to a file called abcd.txt and then it is an actual output of the file. Okay, this is not the output standard error, this is the output of the file. That is the difference actually. There is a file called abcd.txt. You can also vim abcd.txt. You see that this is the content. So there is a difference between this and that. You should know that. So Generally, the standard output is uh, written to the standard output, and standard error are shown as the standard output in the terminal. In the terminal, remember that. I insist once again, in the terminal. But actually, when you are working with systems, okay, I'm going to delete this file abcd.txt. When you are working with systems, this is not the case. When you are working with systems, you should able to tell that what is standard output and then what is standard error. I deleted that abcd.txt file. There is no abcd.txt file. Cat abcd.txt. This is a standard error now. Particularly, if you want to put the standard error redirect to a file, you see that the redirection failed. You see that cat error dot log. There is no error dot log. You see that I redirected the cat abcd.txt. I redirected to error dot log. The reason is this is not the standard output to send to the log file. This is the standard error. Here you get to know. So I want to redirect only sorry, standard errors. Then you have to use like this, 2 greater than, 2 greater than. The 2 number is very important here. Okay, this specially tells that I want to create a file, I want to redirect the standard error to a file. Here it failed. The reason is cat abc.txt. This is standard output, but here this is a standard error. You are redirecting to a standard error. The difference between sorry, abcd.txt, here I give, I would like to copy it to a standard error. Okay, when you open the file error.log, you see that this is the error.log. So to summarize, as of now, this is called standard output. It returns the standard output. This gonna write standard output. This gonna write standard error. This gonna append to a file. Append is always end of the to the end of the file. Append means to the end of the file. These 3 things we discussed. Sometimes you may have to take standard output and then standard error to a file. Okay, there are situations where you may have to take standard output and then standard error to a file. Standard output and standard error. Okay. For example, I would like to take, there is a hello.txt file, cat hello.txt file. Let's know file. Okay, cat hello.txt file, cat hello1.txt. I think, yeah, we should be in the workspace. Cat sample.txt file. This is the sample.txt file. Okay, I would like to use a command called grep. Grep is a command that is used to search. Okay, grep or grep, people pronounce it. Search for some command. from the list of the files. You know that it searches for a text. Actually, here you have to pass the regular expression. If you don't know about regular expressions, we will discuss about regular expressions little later on. Okay, grep command search for a text, search for a whatever the text we pass in all the text files star.txt. Star is a wildcard character. We are talking about all the list of the files .txt. Okay, whichever the file, for example, uh, vim touch is another command to create a file, sample2.txt. Okay, uh, echo hello sample2 to file sample2.txt. Okay, and also touch sample3.txt and echo sample3 file sample3.txt. Fine. I don't need to use this with a single. I can also create the file. Fine. Now I would like to use grep mode. I'm searching for a text called mode. From where? From all the files .txt files. Okay. So it found the text from the sample.txt file. You see that it found the text from the sample.txt file. Let's say I put a. It found a, the word in orange color. It found a from sample.txt, sample2.txt, and then sample3.txt. This is what the grep command is. Okay. Let's say I type, this is the standard output, remember that. Let's say I type ABCD. Okay. You don't find any text with something called ABCD. Let's say this is an error. You see that this is an error. Grep command could not find any file or directory. Grep command could not find any file or directory with star ABCD extension. Fine. What I do now, I would like to save the grep file, output of the grep file, whether it is an output or it is an error. So there are two things. One could be standard output and the other could be standard error. Okay. So how do you know whether it's a standard output or standard error? Generally, so if you put as 2, then you understand, okay, it is the standard error. You can also redirect the standard output to the standard error as well. Okay, something like this. You can put what you can put something called 2 greater than address of 1. Okay, what you are doing is you are converting the standard error to the standard output. However, whether it is a standard output or it is a standard error, I would like to save to the file. Then you have to use either this or this is one command. This is one command. I'm saving it to the file. This is one command, or you can also do like this. Both of them does the same. Both these commands are same. What this is going to do here is the standard output or standard error. Okay, let me put it as ABCD. You know that this is going to give you an error. Standard output or standard error. You see that there is an error. There is an error. Okay, cat this one. There is an error, and then that error, and then the file, everything is appended there because I gave it as two things. Okay. So if you want to convert the standard output or you want to write to the standard error, you have to use this one, this notation. Okay. It could be standard output or standard error. Why this is important? This is very, very important in DevOps. The reason is you will have to write the output to the files, particularly logs and all. You will have to write all the logs to the files and etc. This is very, very important. So far we discussed about the standard output. Okay, what about the standard input? Where do we need the input? Where do we need the input? Okay, let's say that I create a file. I'm going to remove all other files. There is only one file. Now I create a simple file. It contains I open a file called grep. I open, let's say, mode and then star.txt. Something like this. I put a file. I put inside a file. I press escape. I double Q. It opened and then file. Okay. This is the grep text file. I have created a file called grep text. I would like to give this as an input to the grep command. That means grep input grep text. Sorry. So it should redirect the input from the command to the file. Okay, let me check the other one. There is a command called sort command. I will explain this. There is a command called sort command. I take sort command. The input of the sort command is nothing but sample.txt file. It got to it. This is what the input to the sort command. You see that everything got sorted out. Sort command sample.txt and then the output, the whole output. This is got the output. The whole output should be the sorted sample.txt file. You see that the sort is a command that is going to sort out the content whatever you pass here. So what is the input? The input is sample.txt file. Whatever is the content that is there in the sample.txt file, this I would like to give it as an input to the sort command. Okay, for example, sort hello world, how are you? No such file directory because it is expecting a file to be given. Sorry for that. Sort command is, it gives, you have to give only the file. Ignore leading, ignore case. Sort command, you have to give read standard input with no file. When the file is this, read from the standard input. Okay, if there is no file, it should read from the standard input. So what happened here? This is the standard input. It has taken the standard input, so it didn't do anything. So uh, but we can give the standard input as the file. This is the standard input of this file. Sorry, this is the standard input of this file. That means the contents of the file are given as standard input, and then the whole output, this is the output. It is sorted out. Sorry, sort standard input sample.txt. It got sorted. All the details. Actually, if you see sample.txt, this is the content. Okay, but when you use sort, everything got sorted. Even the spaces are given at first because spaces are sorted. The standard output, the standard input is what? The file, and the output I would like to return to the another file, sorted sample.txt. This is written to a file. If you see sorted sample, this is the sorted sample. Okay. So here, this is called the input. You are giving the input to another file. Okay. This is something called standard output and then standard input. You can also convert the standard input into a command line. I will also show that. Yeah, but it's not sorted actually. I will check this exactly command I forgot. So there is something called, sometimes what we have to do is, there is something called end of the file, EOF. For example, cat. What cat does? Cat opens a file. Okay, whenever you write cat, cat opens a file. But you see a lot of this notation. Whatever you write in this file, So there is something called cat command. You know that what is the use of a cat command? Cat command is something that we can open a file. So this allows the input, whatever the input that we are giving here to the cat command, can be fed into a file. So if you, sorry, if you really see this, you can see that file1.txt. This is the file1.txt. What we are doing, this is the input. What input to what you are giving input? You are giving input to the cat command. Okay. What input you are giving? You are giving an input of a file. EOF means end of the file, till end of the file. This is a notation actually. You have to remember this. Okay. You write to the file, you open the file, you write contents to the file, and then say EOF, that means end of the file. The whole output, whatever you are writing in the file, is becoming an input to the cat command so that it is going to save in the file. This notation actually we use very heavily. This kind of notation we use very heavily. For example, I want to find something called word count. Okay, word count. It is saved to the file1.txt. Yeah, EOF is not be saved. EOF is a notation actually. It knows that what EOF is. EOF means end of the file. It that is the starting of the file. It understands the Linux shell can understand that this is the starting of the file and then this is the ending of the file. So yeah, this EOF will not be saved. Only the contents after the file name will be saved. Yeah, you can write echo. You can append more content to the file by using normal by using normal this way. Okay. And there is sorry. And there is something what if I there is something called WC. WC command is word count. Okay, word count command. So number of words in a number of words from the input that we give. Okay, WC is the command. Okay, when you give file name wc-w file1.txt, it gives 13 words are there in the file name. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There are 13 words are there in this particular file, file1. What if you want to give the string as the input to this particular file? What if you want to give the string as the input to this particular command? You can also give string inputs like this. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got it as 7. This is an input. Actually, this what kind of input this is? This is an input of a string. Whenever you want to give an input of a string to a existing command, so arrow showing this way, this is always input. Arrow showing this way, this is going to be the output. So if you want to give the input to a file, you can give input like this. But this other notation, whatever we are creating, okay, cat, this, and then EOF, this is a special notation where you create a file and then write the contents to the file to a file. Write the contents to a file by using cat command. So what usually cat command is what? Cat command is what? Cat command is used to display the contents of a file. For example, cat file1.txt. Cat command is used to display the contents of the file. But what we have done, the output of the file, whatever the content we are writing, that would become the input to the cat command. That's what we are doing. The output of the file, where is it? The output of the file, this is the input. What cat command require? Cat command requires an input which is supposed to be the name of the file. So we are creating a file with the EOF. That means with EOF we are creating a file till end of the file, and the whole file content, that means the actual file, is becoming the input to the cat command, because cat command requires an input. Always cat command requires an input. Okay, that is what about the cat command. Cat command with input and output. So these are all file redirections. For example, sorry. For example, I say ls, list of the files. Ls gives an output. This is the output of the file. I want to use it with the grep combination. You can use a pipe symbol. Pipe symbol is something that the output of this ls command would become the input for the grep command. The output of this would become the input of the grep command. For example, sample. See, ls is the output. This output I would like to give the input to the grep command. What grep command? The output. From the output I would like to what do you say, search sample from the output. This is the output. From this output I would like to search the sample. For example, from the output I would like to search the it's a not the file, it's a content, so you don't get it. You get the content because this is output. The output is in the form of string. So you want to get the output, let's say txt, because if you put star dot, then it will understand it, search for some text called star dot txt. Then wherever the output is in the string format, it found something with the 3 txt, something with the grep command. So there is a symbol called pipe symbol. Pipe symbol is very important for this as well. Okay. You can also use the grep command, search the content, sorry, grep mode from the file called the input of the file, sample.txt. This is the grep command, searching for mode from where? From the input of a file called sample.txt. So the sample.txt file is taken as an input. So the third one is the input. This is one. The output of ls would be the input of grep command. Here the input of sample.txt file is the content of the output of sample.txt file, not the output. Actually, the content of sample.txt file has become the input for the grep command, grep mode, and then the content. Okay, this is how we have to give. I think we can also give the pattern grep command. You can also take the patterns from the file. Okay, you can also take the patterns from the file and also give the file. Let's say that get text sample.text sorted text. For example, I give as vim pattern.txt mode grep file mode from sample.txt file pattern.txt from sample.c. I can also take the pattern, but this is a existing command with the def grep. I didn't do anything input or output redirection. This is an existing command from the grep. I took the pattern from a file. The pattern is what pattern is? Pattern is mode. I took the pattern from a file and also the contents from another file and then printed. Grep means it's going to grep, you understand? Grep, egrep, fgrep prints matching. It looks for the matching patterns. What are the patterns that we pass? It searches for the patterns in each file that we pass. You can also find put the wild characters. Okay, if no file is given, is search for the recursive searches. Examine the working directory wherever it is called, and non-recursive searches read standard input, whatever. In addition, the variant, okay, you have to read all the things and then you understand. Okay, this is what actually today's stuff. So what we have done, we understand standard output, standard input, redirection. I'm sorry. Yes, input and output. Uh, the greater than symbol and the less than symbol, double greater than symbol and the double less than symbol. And we also discussed about what is standard output and the standard error. It's very important. Generally on the terminal, you cannot differentiate whether it's an error or it's an output. I also showed that. So generally standard errors are 2 greater than, it always gives the standard error. It always gives the standard error. Okay. And greater than talks about whether it is an error or an output. Okay. Or an output is what actually the end symbol is. The end symbol of greater than. Okay, there is also other notation 2 greater than and 1. This also, both of them are equal. Both of them are equal. You can either use this or use this. These patterns you see a lot. These kind of things you see a lot in in Linux. Okay, in Linux systems. Okay, for example, cat hello4.txt. This is a standard error or standard output. This is a standard error. But how do you know that this is a standard error? How do you know that this is a standard error? How do you know that this is a standard error? So forget about this. This I just checked. How do you know this is a standard error? How do you differentiate between standard error and then standard output? So what I can do is cat hello 4 command. There is something called dev. There is something called null. 2 greater than 1. 2 greater than 1. Redirect the standard output. Let's see, cat hello. There is no file or something. This is the standard error. Okay. This should display only the standard error. That's what I'm checking. For example, there is something special notation called dev. There is a notation called null. This is nothing but the output actually. Dev null is nothing but the output. I will explain that later. So 1, it's not showing any error. I will check that as well. It should display only the standard error basically. Uh, echo echo txt. I will display this little later. It should display the actually syntax line. But one way we can do is cat hello 4.txt to this error.txt. There is nothing in the error.txt because there is no error. What if I put hello world 5.txt? There is an error.txt because 2 greater than is the standard error. Basically 2 greater than is the standard error. So the standard error is displayed as standard output. This is what it has to show. It should display, but I do not know. There is some issue with there. I will check and then let you know. Actually, what happened is, what we are doing is, if there is any standard error, we are putting it to standard output. This is the standard output. This is what we are doing. However, yeah, we'll check that later. But this is for today, and then